Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Spring 22 midterm walkthrough. Today I will be doing the forming teams question. So without further ado, let's just get right into the question. So it says, given a list of captain names captains, a list of player names players, and a two-argument function are compatible, the form teams method returns a dictionary of compatible teams where the key is the team captain and the value is a list of players on each team. So things that are important here is list of captain names, captains, list of players, two-argument function are compatible. Okay, and it returns a dictionary. Just some things I want to think about as I'm reading the function. Okay, compatibility between captains and players determined by the are compatible function, which turns true if a captain and a player are compatible and false otherwise. The order in which arguments are passed does not matter. Okay. Also, it says players are added to the first captain they're compatible with. That's interesting. That means that they can only be paired with at most one captain. So that's probably going to be important. And it also says if players cannot be paired with any of the captains, they become a captain of their own solo team. Okay, interesting. So first things first is I'm just going to go and look at the doc test in order to see what this function is supposed to do. So let's look. The first thing we see in the doc test is same length. So we created a function which just checks that the two inputs, x and y, are the same length. The name is quite self-explanatory in this case. And then, it looks like this is my list of captains, and then this is my list of players, like I was described in the function description. Okay. And when I call form teams on it, it's returning me a dictionary. So that's cool. And I want to look at how these were paired. Okay, so if I were to run through them, it looks like first, if I look at Adam, Adam would get paired with Mary because they're the same length. Kit would get paired with Bob. Okay, and then does Kit also get paired with Tim? No, Tim doesn't have anyone paired. So that's interesting. That must be this clause right here that players are added to the first captain they're compatible with. So I can't pair, I lost their name. Where were they? I can't pair both Kit with both Bob and Tim. Okay. And then the next one, Katie. So Katie doesn't have any same length captain. So, okay, it looks like they got their own. And I can continue that for the rest of the players list. Okay, now let's look at the function, and I'm going to try to find all of the errors. So there are supposed to be 3 errors, and what I'm allowed to do is delete lines and modify lines. Okay, so first of all, it looks like we're creating a dictionary, so that's probably fine. I need to return a dictionary at the end. I'm not really going to look too hard at that. And then I see for C and captains, teams of C is equal to empty list. That's also probably fine because I need to actually create all of these keys. And then I also need to make empty lists for all of the players that are potentially paired with the captain. So I think this line probably is okay. Okay, and then we're iterating over the players. I think that's probably also okay, just because it was quite natural to first look at the players and then look at what potential captains they could be paired with. So again, that's probably a fine line. And then the next thing we see is added to team is equal to false. I think this line also makes a decent amount of sense. If I'm assuming that added to team is just some variable which tells us whether or not a player is added to a team yet, I would probably need a variable for that, and I would have to set it to false to begin with because I haven't assigned them to a certain team. Okay, the next thing we see is for C and captains. Also makes sense because I need to know which captain to pair the player with. And then I see if they're compatible, teams of C is equal to the list P, and then added to team is equal to true, else added to team equals false. Okay, so it's probably going to be the errors are probably going to be in this place, just because of the fact I've eliminated the possibility that they were from above. Okay, so I think I'm going to actually run through the doc test example and see what would happen with this given code. So let's say the first player I'm looking at is, actually, let's start on Kit first, just to see what's happening. Okay, so Kit, first, their added to team is false. So for Kit, added to team, to team starts off as false because they haven't been added to a team. And then for C and captains, if they're compatible, so Kit is compatible with Bob. So I'm going to do teams of C is equal to P. Okay. So in my dictionary, that would be Bob. And that would be the list with P, which was Kit. Okay. And then added to team is equal to true now. Okay. And then we'll look at the next one, which is Mary. And are they compatible? No, I'll go to the else statement and now I'll do added to team is equal to false. Already this seems like it might be a little bit of a problem because I just changed added to team to false, but I'm only allowed to add a given player to one team. So this might actually cause me to add a player to multiple teams. And if we look at the next iteration, we see with Tim and Kit are compatible. So I would actually have ended up adding Kit to Tim as well, which does not seem entirely right. Okay, so I think actually my solution could just be to entirely delete these two lines because I never really have to change added to team to true, to false because of the fact that once I add them to the team, I can't really unadd them from the team. And the first team I add them to is the first team or is the pairing that I actually want. So my first fix is just to delete these two lines because it's going to cause me to accidentally add to multiple different teams, which from the description, I'm not allowed to do. Okay, the next thing I want to think about is even if I didn't change added to team to be false, assuming that that's what it kind of represents, whether or not something is added to a team, it looks I'm not actually even checking whether the player has been added to a team yet. So even by deleting lines 10 and 11, I think I'm still going to accidentally add Kit to Tim because if we look here, they're still compatible. So I'm still going to end up changing it such that I add Kit to the Tim key. So I think I might need another condition. And it looks like I'm not really using added to team anywhere yet. So maybe I can actually check whether they've been added to a team yet before I actually add them to the team. So maybe my fix here is going to be, they do have to be compatible, but I also want to make sure and not added to team. In other words, I want to make sure that added to team is false before I actually end up adding them to a team. Once I do add them to a team, then I no longer want to potentially add them to another team. Okay, so that's my second fix. That's where I would insert it. Okay, the next thing I want to think about is what happens when I continually run through this doc test. So for example, after I've done Adam and Tony and Dory, do they all get put into the Mary or get bound to the Mary key? So I'm only going to do those given players. So the first thing I see is if they're compatible, they are all compatible with each other because they're length 4. So what I'm going to do is teams of C is equal to the list P, in which case that would be Mary bound to the key Adam. Okay, and then I do a couple for the different players, but once I get to Tony, let me repeat the process. They are compatible. But now I realize that when I redefine the key Mary to a new value, I actually overwrote my previous value. So I kind of, every single time I get a new potential pairing, it looks like I just completely overwrite what I had previously. So if I kept this implementation at the end, I would only have a list with Dory in it instead of Adam, Tony, and Dory. So the way that I can probably fix this is to make sure that I'm only adding onto the list and not completely replacing it. In other words, I could just append onto what I currently have. So I'm going to replace this line with appending that new player. So teams.c dot append p. Okay, and I think that should fix it because now on the first iteration, I'm going to append Adam, and then I'll append Tony, and then I'll append Dory. And that way I actually keep all of my different players in my potential pairs. Okay, and with that, that ends the walkthrough because I found all three of my different errors. The first was this else statement, which never makes sense because we can't unadd someone from a team. And then there was also the fact that we were not using the variable that we had defined, added to team. And then finally, we wanted to make sure that we weren't overriding the lists that we were creating. And we fixed that by appending to the list rather than completely redefining it to a new list. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.